Welcome back, City Builders. Kodiak the Kodiak here. In today's video, we're going to be going over an official Q&A posted on the Paradox forums, answering some community questions on Paradox mods. Now, I did receive early access to Paradox mods, as well as the new content coming out to Cities Skylines 2, so I would like to provide some additional insight to some of these questions that are sometimes hard to answer in just a few sentences. On top of that, there is some interesting language in regards to code mods on console that if you play on console platforms, you might want to stick around for. So before we get started, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and do not forget to turn on notifications so you can keep up to date with all the new content I have coming out, going over everything coming to Cities Skylines 2. And don't forget, this Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, or New York City time, I'll have a live stream here on my channel. The link will be down in the descriptions and up in the annotations right now, where we'll be going over everything coming to Cities Skylines 2. And I'll be able to freely share all the information that I've been privy to. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so here we are on the Paradox forums, and we're going to go through all of these questions one by one, and I'll be able to provide some further insight from what I know based on my early access to Paradox mods. They start up there at the top, answering community questions. We wanted to answer some questions that you asked yesterday. So without further ado, who wrote this? Did somebody who watches my channel wrote this? That's my thing. What the heck? Okay, another FAQ from the Paradox mods team. Question. Can you disable comments for mods? It's actually quite the other way around. Mod creators opt in on discussions by adding a forum thread to the mod metadata. So for any of you who have used the Steam workshop before, you know that if you scroll down on a mod, there's actually usually a comment thread related to the mod. Well, on default for Paradox mods, that's going to be turned off. A lot of mod creators don't like the comments directly there, as sometimes it adds a lot of confusion where people are unaware or just don't know how the mod works and then claim it's broken. So some mod creators like to turn that off for their own sake and mental well-being. So on Paradox mods, it's turned off by default, but you can opt into it by adding a forum thread from Paradox mods to the mod, and you can have discussions directly built in, just like the comments from the Steam workshop. Question number 2, can we make mod collections? And I think before in an earlier video, I did say the playsets were kind of like collections, and they are in a way in terms of organizing mods, but they really do not function the same way. You can't pick and choose, and you can't really share them, and we'll go over that here. So they say you can achieve something very similar by creating a wrapper mod, or a dummy mod is how I've been kind of referring to them. So they're not really a mod, they just kind of like are a blank slate essentially, but they contain all the collected mods as dependencies, because as we know from Paradox mods, if you guys didn't watch my Paradox mods video, I'll put that up in the annotations right now, where we fully break down everything with Paradox mods, and I show off some early images of it. You'll know that when a mod has a dependency mod or a dependency asset, it will automatically try to flag it and allow you to download it. So what this does is it basically has a dummy or a blank mod that will take those other mods and add those into your game as dependencies, thus basically being a collection. We support up to 100 dependencies per mod. This will cause anyone that subscribes to your wrapper mod to be subscribed to collected mods. I have heard from quite a few people at this point that they are working on making something similar to collections, but this is kind of the way they are doing it for now. Can we share playsets, which is what I thought was collections, and they are now explaining and trying to at least clarify that they're not collections. Not presently, but a playset sharing and following is something we are working on. We don't have a launch date for this feature, but it's on the roadmap. And at this point, I'd like to kind of stop and talk about the current state of Paradox mods. It is in beta. It explicitly says beta kind of everywhere all over it, and they have been very active with the modders who have had early access to make changes to it. They're very actively adapting and adding new things to it per the modders' request, and now soon you, the users' request. We've already made some requests as the content creators of things we want to see added to it, but again, it is in beta and they are adding more things to it. It has an incredibly bright future, but not everything that you maybe want in it is there yet. But again, it's hopefully all coming. Eventually, you should be able to also use Skive to either share playsets or at least share collections as well. Can we see the update history of a mod? You can indeed. The version history, and if supplied by the creator, patch notes are available for you per usual. There is a specific section on the right-hand side of every single Paradox mod that does allow for you to see the change log, which is all of the updates made to it. One thing I would like to see in Paradox mods updated, which I will show on screen right now in a screenshot of Paradox mods, is the ability to see when the mod was last updated on the actual page for it. So the preview image right here, I would like to be able to just quickly see when it was last updated, especially if you're sorting by last updated up in the top. But again, it's in beta and they are listening to our feedback, and I'm blown away that it's as feature rich as it is currently. And right now, we don't need necessarily a lot of the sorting features currently implemented, because all we're going to really have access to is mods and maps for the time being. Until the asset importer and editor is kind of fully fleshed out in game, we really don't need too complex of search functions. But again, from what they're saying and what I've been hearing, all this stuff is kind of on the way, and they're really waiting to hear back from general users on what they actually want. And us as content creators have obviously submitted quite a bit of feedback already. Question: can we use mods on GeForce Now? So GFN is GeForce Now. This is the cloud streaming service from NVIDIA, and they said not presently. We are working with NVIDIA on enabling mods on their platform. But as you know, executing arbitrary code on shared hardware is not exactly a risk-free endeavor. Both Paradox and NVIDIA are keen to getting it working, so eventually we'll probably figure something out. So they're working directly with NVIDIA, it seems like, to actually get that function working. I didn't even think about a cloud streaming service with this game and the mod workshop and how that would even function, because you are actively downloading more and more things and putting that onto a profile on shared hardware like they said. So I understand why that actually is kind of a hard endeavor to achieve. I'm actually a big proponent for cloud streaming games. I think it's a really interesting concept, especially for low activity games like Cities Skylines, where it's not like you're playing a fast-paced FPS or anything like that, where you need low, fast response times. I think this is a perfect game to have on a platform like GeForce Now. So I really hope they do get that working. Further down here, they say, how does moderation and malware removal work? For all intents and purposes, it's identical to the process used for Cities Skylines 1. Players can report mods. Mod reports are reviewed by moderators, and if a mod is deemed to be in breach of community guidelines, it'll be banned. Mod creators may appeal ban in order to get their mod reinstated if they feel like they have been unfairly treated. There is some stuff about mod removal I'd like to get into, but I think we're going to jump into the next question and then kind of explain that. What happens if a mod dependency is removed? This, I don't know what just happened there, is a multi-part answer. Mods are not removed from your disk when they are removed server-side, since this would be very disruptive. However, if you remove a no longer published mod from your disk, it can't be re-downloaded from Paradox Mod. So what they're saying here is that if they remove a mod from their services, let's say there is a DMCA takedown of, let's say, a Best Buy asset. If any of you know what I'm referencing here, if you have that Best Buy asset download and they have to remove it from their workshop, it doesn't get removed from your local disk. So you can still continue to use said asset even if they have to remove it due to a takedown request from the brand. However, if you then remove it, you can't re-download it. Currently, we don't show what dependencies are missing from a mod, which is an issue that I definitely saw and kind of noticed, but we are working on a feature to highlight if this is the case, which is good. I think that's definitely very essential and will be, especially as we get further and further into the game when we have assets and a lot of stuff linked to everything. The mod will probably no longer work, but we won't prevent you from installing it and trying it anyways. Maybe you have the missing dependency installed locally, and that's why they are not going to stop you from trying to do it, because you might have a workaround or a different way to access that mod locally. We would never wish to, nor can we legally prevent a mod creator from removing their work from our platform. So they basically, once you upload it, they can't say, no, you can't take that down. You can't take that off there. That's up there now. They can't stop you from doing that. This means that if a mod that you're mod dependent on is removed, you have no recourse except to replace it with something else or convince the creator of the removed mod to republish it. So basically what they're saying is, like, let's say you make a school. This is a real life situation that happened with me in Cities Skylines 1, where like I downloaded a school asset, and that school asset was using a school bus prop, but the school bus prop was removed from the workshop. There's no reason why Colossal Order Paradox mods would not allow you to download that school asset still, even if the bus prop was removed, because the asset might still function properly, it just might be missing a prop. So that's essentially kind of what they're saying here, is if the dependency or like some kind of like asset that's included in it is removed, that doesn't stop people from downloading your mod, and that doesn't stop you from accessing it just because one little thing might not be there. Next up, will code mods work on console? And this was Kind of jaw-dropping to me at the language change here, and I think that's the really important thing to look about. They're not explicitly stating anything here, so don't jump to conclusions necessary, but really look at the language change here. While our aim is to make the experiences between platforms as similar as possible, technical limitations and security issues means that there will be inevitable differences between different versions of the game, which makes sense, right? Their initial claim was that there was not going to be code mods on consoles. That made sense to me, that there was going to be some kind of limitations between the different versions of the game. How those mods are implemented might not be achievable on console because they don't have as big of access to how the machine works. And that's also just like a lot to ask from modders sometimes. But let's read the next sentence here. From Colossal Order and Paradox sides, we are mod maximalists, and we always work to that end. With what exact limitations will be placed on console version is not known, but we will try to have as few limitations as possible. So they're not being as definitive as I remember them being in the past about no code mods on the console. They're not explicitly stating that. Now, if we look at the actual question, will codes mods works? They didn't explicitly say no. And again, this is a clear shift in language, so they might have been able to work something out with Xbox or determine that certain mods that have been worked on for a long time in the background, because some modders have had access for quite a while, might inherently work. But we don't know that for sure, so please don't jump to conclusions. This doesn't necessarily mean that code mods will work, but there's a possibility based on the language here, unless they come out and explicitly state again, no, actually, no, there's not going to be code mods. But based on the language here, they're not explicitly stating that. So that's a good thing for console users who, yeah, I guess you don't have access to the game right now, sure, but this is a little bit of hope for maybe some code mods. But again, we don't know for sure. Moving on from that, can we change the download location of the mods? Not currently from any in-game setting, so there's no way to do it in-game, though the implementation does perfectly allow soft links. So if you really need to store your mod library on a bigger disk, it's technically possible, albeit with some work outside the game itself. As you'd expect, storing mods on a slow disk will come with a performance penalty. So what they're saying is that while there's no way to do it in-game right now, there is technically the capability to do it on the back end. And again, there seems to be quite a lot that you actually can do on the back end of Cities Skylines 2. If you guys didn't look at the code mods development diary that came out yesterday, it might sound boring. It might not sound like it's anything in your wheelhouse. I learned so much from that development diary, and I think it provides a lot of insight for people who don't know the first thing about code mods and how they actually work on the back end of the game. And I think it's super insightful, and I genuinely encourage every single person who uses mods in Cities Skylines or wants to use mods, even if you're not trying to make them, just use them in general, to go back and watch that video. Or at least read the dev diary yourself. Even if you don't care about it from a Cities Skylines perspective, just reading it from like a general user who might use mods in any video game, I promise you'll learn something about it and maybe provide a little bit more empathy towards modders because of it. Can you list mods by popularity? Yes, this is one of the default sort orders. Now, this is something that somebody brought up after the fact, and I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of missing that, is that there isn't like a sort by time with that also. So if we look at the Steam Workshop, there is sort by popularity in the past month, past 3 months, past week, whatever. There's no like extra like past time period. Now, while that's not relevant right now because it's new, Paradox Mods is new, there's not going to be too much on there aside from maps and codes mods, and we have to wait for a lot of code mods to get made still. So while that's not inherently super relevant or necessary right now, there is a lot of search and filtering related things that I do hope they add by the time asset mods come out. It is one of the things that I think is missing from Paradox Mods, and I do hope that it gets added, but it's not necessarily essential right now, and I'm glad that they prioritized other things over that. Can we follow our favorite modders? Currently, you can list all the mods made by a particular modder, and you can actually do this in the search bar by typing @ and then that modder's username. So if you wanted to find mods made by me, which I will be uploading a radio mod at some point once that all gets set up by the person who actually made the radio mod, once they get the radio mod actually set up, when I can get my actual station up, that will be up on there, and you can actually just type @Kodiak the Kodiak into the search bar, and you'll be able to find me and all my stuff. So if you want to find everything made by Cuboid, the maker of Move It, you would type @Cuboid, and it would pop up all of their mods in the search bar. But there's no provision to actually follow them. This, together with more fleshed out creator profiles, optional of course, is something that we have on our roadmap and relatively close on it as well. And I don't actually know how much we're allowed to speak about the web page version of Paradox Mods, but I will say that there is a follow function on the Paradox Mods web page. You can't really like dive into the actual following list, and it doesn't really do anything, but the feature is there, which means that they are actively working on it. So when they say that it is relatively close, they actually do have some of the implementation ready for that, which is really cool. If you are banned on the forums, will this affect your ability to mod or subscribe to mods? This will not affect your ability to mod or subscribe, though it will affect your ability to create discussion threads for your mods, which again is off by default, and to participate in mod discussions, so you won't be able to actually comment on another person's mod. If your infraction is severe enough that your entire Paradox account is disabled, which is almost unheard of, you will no longer be able to log in and hence will not be able to subscribe or upload mods for the duration of your ban. Your existing mods will remain active to other users though, so your mods will still remain up. That's not going to cause a problem. Other people will be able to access those still. Here's an older Q&A below it as well that is from when the game kind of came out around October-ish. We went over this in a video a long time ago. I don't even remember which video it was, but I will leave a link to obviously this Q&A down in the description so you guys can go through it. And if you want to read these older Q&A thread options, you totally can. Some entries have been removed here because they're no longer relevant. I don't know which ones were removed. I'm actually quite curious. Maybe I will go back and take a look, but we can quickly go through these really fast. How will the Paradox Mods as a platform perform on release? As always, performance download speed is all dependent on how many mods the player is running at their size. So far, Paradox Mods has been running very smoothly. All the updates have been going very quickly. There's no assets, obviously, but from my personal experience, it's been quite quick. If a user has a significant amount of mods and a large portion has received updates when the game is started, it may take some time for those to download. If you actually look when you launch the game, there's that little notification box down in the bottom right. It'll actually show those mods like kind of getting like deployed essentially and updated when you launch your game, which is really nice. We are working on optimizing this process to allow for differential updates, basically meaning that only the new updated part of the mod will actually be downloaded, and the ability to sync one more mod at a time, aka parallelized sync. So they'll actually do two at one time. We actually just received an update. I believe it's the launch version of the game that will be coming out. That, as far as I understand it, will allow you to not have to restart the game after maps are downloaded from Paradox Mods. So the way we were doing it before is anytime we downloaded anything from Paradox Mods, had to restart the game. Now, maps, you don't have to restart the game anymore. It's just code mods when those download. So that's pretty nice. Will you have to log into Paradox Mods separately from Steam and the Microsoft Store? As long as you have connected your platform, Steam, Xbox, PSN account to your Paradox account, which you can actually do on your Paradox account. I will leave a link to the Paradox Mod Workshop down below. This is available for other games, but you can log into your account there and add all that information. So I'll leave a link to mods.paradox, whatever, down in the description so you guys can do that and get that all set up before the big day on Monday. Will Cities Skylines 2 launch paid mods or microtransaction on Paradox Mods? This has been explained quite a few times, but I will do it here. No, there will not be any paid mods for Cities Skylines 2 on Paradox Mods. They will never charge money for mods. They've made that explicitly clear. They might charge money for assets in the form of content creator packs, but those existed in Cities Skylines 1 as well, and they will be official DLCs. Otherwise, everything that will be going on to Paradox Mods will be free. How will Paradox Mods handle creations with updates? Do they download as soon as Steam is open? When any mod that you're subscribed to has an update, it will start downloading and updating automatically once the game is started. On top of that, if you download Skive, I'm pretty sure this is how Skive works, because Skive is a separate application. It is also a service. So as long as Skive is running, it will actually update all of your mods before you even launch the game, which is really nice. Question, will you be able to publish copywritten buildings or copyright brands? So this is in relation to the Best Buy thing that we discussed earlier. You can publish anything you create, but if we receive a cease and desist, it will be removed. This is the same process on the Steam Workshop. So nothing's changing. I think there's a lot of people who are scared that because Steam is kind of removed from the scenario, that gives Colossal Order more control and they can be more controlling. They could be as controlling with the Steam Workshop. Steam was not stopping them from doing anything before. It was just, Steam was actually just another hand that could intentionally cause problems, I guess, in a way. And now that that's actually been removed, you could say that, like, well, now there's only one hand and that could cause control, and sure, but from a actual removing things like copyrighted brands, Steam wasn't stopping that. from before. In fact, they could have actually gone out of their way to remove stuff if they wanted to. I think people don't really understand actually how much control game developers have on the Steam Workshop. So do keep that in mind, that this is almost exactly the same as Steam Workshop when it comes to removing things from it if something happens. But again, those assets will still be on your computer locally. So if something does get removed from Paradox mods because of that, that doesn't mean that it's removed from your computer. Will you be able to vote, give thumbs up, give stars to creations you like, and what are the consequences will it have? You will be able to rate mods using thumbs up and like button. There's no other consequences that they have to it. You can actually see the number of likes that it has. I've kind of gone back and forth in my head on whether or not I want a dislike button or a star system. Before, I think I said I would really like a star system, but now that I'm thinking more about it, it does seem like if a mod creator like accidentally publishes a version of it that kind of breaks the mod, they could get review bombed really easily, and I don't think that's reflective of the actual state of the mod. I think this is an overall problem with reviews, and I don't really know what a good solution to that is. Maybe weighting it to more recent things or recent reviews as default, and then you could maybe sort by lifetime might be better, but I don't just like having a thumbs up button personally. But I totally understand why modders would maybe prefer just a thumbs up button. Will there be any way to link two creations together if one needs one, like Harmony mod in Cities Skylines 1? If you guys watched the code mod video from yesterday about the code modding dev diary, you'll know that Harmony is actually going to be taking a much further backseat in terms of what Cities Skylines 2 has to offer in terms of modding. That's actually a good thing. Harmony's just not as necessary with Cities Skylines 2. Yes, if dependencies exist, players will be asked if they wish to add them as subscriptions, which I think I've explained in this video and in other videos as well. Is there any way to share comments on the page of creation, which we've went over before? You can add a Paradox form thing. You can also link to common social channels such as Discord, X, and YouTube. Eventually, Paradox forms thread can be displayed directly within the mod. There is like a basic version of this. I don't actually know if this fully functions yet. I haven't seen any mods actively on Paradox mods using that yet, but I've heard inklings that that's actually being deployed on the back end, so modders can start doing that. I just don't know if any of them have done it yet. Or it might not work yet because things aren't public. I'm not too sure on that, but that should be a feature eventually. Who is handling the moderation of Paradox mods assets? Paradox will handle the moderation of Paradox mods, and all reports submitted will go through us. This is also the case for the Steam Workshop, so there's no changes in the process. Again, I think that there was a lot of fear-mongering and a lot of misunderstanding of that. Moving over to Paradox mods just gives Paradox all the control, and they had all the control before. Steam's hands are actually just being taken out of it. I think this Paradox mods is an overall benefit to Cities Skylines, mostly because now Xbox and other platforms like Epic, if you get the game on there, or if you get it through PC Game Pass, or GeForce Now, if they ever get that working, will allow those users to also access mods, which they couldn't before. I personally have never really enjoyed the Steam Workshop and have found third-party workshops like Thunderstore, for example, or mods.io to have been much easier to use as a user. So I like Paradox mods so far. I'm glad we're moving away from the Steam Workshop. That might be a hot take, and I'm sure other people might have enjoyed their time with the Steam Workshop. And some of the features that are on the Steam Workshop will slowly be coming over to Paradox mods as more things get fleshed out, because obviously it's in beta. But I think overall, by the time maybe a year from now comes around, or maybe even 2 years from now, I think Paradox mods will be significantly better than the Steam Workshop for Cities Skylines 2. One final note that isn't brought up in here, but I just want to remind you guys, is that modders do work for free. They are freely providing their services for us, and I will show on screen right now that Paradox has actually allowed direct links to modders' Patreons as well as their PayPals, and they're not skimming anything off of this. These are direct links. So modders and asset creators can actually just receive direct donations from you, the users. So if you've ever thought of giving your favorite modder some money here or there as a thank you for the free work that they're doing to make the Cities Skylines community so much better for all of us, I would highly encourage you guys to do that. And Paradox and Colossal Order have made that even easier for those modders to receive those. So if you guys ever see that, please do. One final thing before I let you guys get on with your day is if we actually come over here to Twitter, we'll actually see some really cool information from BadPeanut, the creator of the One Train Station pack, as well as the sports venues content creator pack. And I believe they also made the airports, like the actual terminals for the airports DLC. Had something really awesome to share. If you remember my first asset for Cities Skylines 1 looks like, then you may not recognize this completely remade suburban train station. No, this won't be available Monday. Now the focus is on the upcoming update is an asset creation, but there's some big strides made to allow some testing. And we've seen this from DK. I had this in a previous video as well as someone else shared a subway station that they moved over to the asset creator, which does exist in some sort of bare bones system that certain people who have early access, clearly BadPeanut does as well. And we can actually see BadPeanut's train station right here from Cities Skylines 1. And we can actually see some different pictures. This is a custom-made asset imported into Cities Skylines 1. So we can see that there is some stuff being done in terms of the asset importer. So I'm really excited, and I cannot wait for more progress to be made on that. Now, don't forget, I will be live this Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time here on YouTube, as well as on Twitch, going over everything that I have been basically given early access to. You guys can come in, ask some questions. I should be able to answer pretty much everything at that point, or at least everything that I know, and really be able to show off some things with actual video footage, because as we know, there's just some things that it's just, you can't really explain it with a picture. You got to show it with a video. And that embargo lifts this Sunday. And if you miss it, don't worry, it will be available as a VOD under my live tab here on YouTube. I'll let you guys get on with your day now. I've been Kodiak, and I will catch you guys hopefully Sunday, if not in the next one. Deuces.